everyone, Joseph Damiens and Stephen Dillon here from Damiens Tax Law. Just going to go over IRS levy and kind of what that means, what that might mean for you, and kind of what we might see that steps that you have to take to stop it. So there's several different collection mechanisms the IRS uses, a levy being one of many. The most common is a bank levy. That's when the IRS comes in and sends a letter to your bank, and they will, extract and take whatever balance is in your account. And when we get calls, the most common call is obviously, can this be stopped? There are a few mechanisms to do that. Stephen, there's always appeals mechanically. How does it work just kind of mechanically when a bank receives the notice of levy?
Bank is supposed to freeze all of your funds on the day they open up the letter from IRS. It can be up to the balance due the taxpayers owe or whatever's in the account. It will hold that money for a period of 21 days. That is an opportunity for us to approach the IRS and convince them that they have either made an error or if they could moderate in this approach to release all of the funds, or in cases, some half, percentage. Sometimes we can broker deals. As we said in the beginning, time is of the essence with these matters because 21 days, be surprised dealing with government agencies, that can go by rather quickly. And if you aren't aware of the deadlines, you could miss it and they could send the money in while you're still working on these matters. So that's of a concern. We do try to resolve matters in the earliest possible level, but sometimes and often they do kind of have a unified front and say no. So that's where an appeal would take place. We would pursue it through the Taxpayer Advocate's Office, try to do what is sometimes called a CAP, that stands for Collection Appeal Proceeding. Those are remedies available. Often we're successful in doing that.
And also, in a lot of cases, there's a lot that's going to have to be done for us and our team in that 21-day period, because a lot of people are, years behind on returns and things of that nature. The IRS is a lot of times going to require to be filed and called up and financials discovered and in this interim time. So it's a pretty fast moving 21 days.
Right. And it's interesting, if you want something from the IRS, they would want something in return, which means that they would review the taxpayer's accountant. Anything that was missing, they would require you to file or pay. It can be quite challenging, and especially if you're not used to marshaling all those papers together and presenting them in an intelligent format to the IRS to achieve the best result. I mean, this is not for the faint of heart. We feel confident because we do this routinely and we have applied what works on other cases to the new case coming in the door. Yeah. So again, time is of the essence. You don't want to drop the ball. The government is by and large understaffed at this time. So not only do we have to worry about our own casework, we almost have to monitor theirs simultaneously. It's quite challenging. And then there's a lot at stake. I mean, you're talking about taxpayers that have had most, if not all, of their money taken from them. So not only are they dealing with that, they're dealing with trying to resolve their creditors that got held in the lurch by this activity. I don't know if anybody can handle going down to their checking account and finding out they have a zero balance unexpectedly.
And the next question they always have is like, what about my next paycheck, right? What happens?
That's challenging. Now, in a state context, if you owed the state, they could take the next paycheck. But here we are talking about the IRS. The goal would be to prevent further ones from going out. There is an opportunity to contact the powers that be, the collections division of IRS, and putting a stop to this once and for all, because it's no way to live with enforcement actions such as these. And there are remedies, there are kind of things we can do in response to this, especially if the taxpayer is in legitimate hardship. We can get the IRS to recognize that and give moratoriums to collections, whether that takes place in 3 or 4 months or over the course of a year. There are ways that we can speak to the IRS and broker those kinds of understandings to give taxpayers a break under currently non-collectible and other kinds of schedules to pay back money.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it does kind of seem to just, the walls cave in all directions at that point because, you worry about mortgage paid, credit cards paid, bills paid, will I get my next paycheck? Is this going to affect my employment? I mean, is my employer going to find out? How does that resolve? And, depending on the type of levy, it could be a wage levy or a levy of a bank account. If it is a wage levy, it is going to be a notice sent to their employer, right? I mean, the employer is going to have to withhold some funds.
If you get an IRS tax levy, a wage levy, there is a graph on the back of it that helps people figure out the amount they're going to allow you. And after normal state and federal deductions, it's very modest under the circumstances. I believe it's $176 for a single person. That's the amount that they would allow you to keep. And anything above that, they siphon off and send to the IRS. And I don't know many people that could get by with $176 a week working full time, going to work and just trying to pay their basic living expenses. And indeed, by contrast, that's someone who works for a wage. It can be even more difficult if you're one of these 1099 subcontractors. They take the whole check.
It's so punitive, yeah.
That could be disastrous, especially if you're a subcontractor and let's say you're in the middle of a job and you have perhaps subcontract labor, people you need to pay, materials you need to buy. It could definitely just be disastrous in terms of the economic hit.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially cutting off all the revenue to a company potentially. I mean, we do have seen that.
And luckily, we have the skills and qualifications to get these kinds of actions suspended and withdrawn. That's the whole thing, is that it's not for the faint of heart. It's difficult for a tax attorney to do. I really couldn't imagine doing it myself without any kind of guidance or map or understanding about how the IRS operate. They have an agenda, and it's not your agenda. They are discharged with collection of federal tax, and they'll do it any means necessary, even if it's disruptive.
It's difficult. I mean, you'll see all the time we're fighting with the IRS just to get money to pay payroll and things like that. I mean, it affects not only you, it can affect your employees. I mean, it can go down the line. It gets very punitive, especially in, business owner situations with the 1099, levying the 1099 funds.
Yes, I think they say they don't want to hurt third-party stakeholders to a levy action. So that does mean everybody down on that chain that is waiting to get paid for services or materials rendered. So again, it's significant, and all is not woe. We can, in fact, have a positive outcome with all of those kinds of things. I find we do that frequently. We take these kinds of cases, we rehabilitate the taxpayer, present them in a favorable light. And when it's all said and done, it's better to walk away from the IRS with an understanding and peace of mind that they will never come back and bother you again. They won't levy your account. They won't file liens. They won't make your life difficult moving forward. That's the kind of service we provide. It's one of peace of mind. And if you ask me, it's a very sound business decision to rectify this area on your financial profit and loss. Fix the tax bill, and you'll enable yourself to have future success financially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say for anybody watching this, I mean, if you are subject to levy, you have to be prepared to move quick. I mean, this is not something that can linger, and, we have to take action quick. They have to be able to get on board with us and move quick, because there's a lot of stuff and steps we're going to have to take in that 21-day period that we don't really have time to sit around for. Because, I mean, at that point, it becomes, hope is lost after we run out of time. Any chance of receiving funds back or getting relief and in that manner has to be done very quickly.
Yes, making it stop. Absolutely. I agree.
All right. Well, if anybody has any further questions on wage levies or anything, just submit them to our website. We'll be happy to follow up with you. Stephen, I appreciate your time today, jumping in with me, talking about levies for a little bit. Hopefully this helps somebody out there. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to us.